He freezes in the middle of a crowded mall. Two fearless kids claim him like they've known him forever, and their mother needs a protector tonight. He takes them home to a fortress, swearing it's just for one day. But the city is watching. A rival kingpin circles, a photo with a red bullseye appears, then a test drops a bomb. It says the twins are his. Is it fate or a forged trap designed to start a war? As the walls close in, the fake dad becomes the only shield that stands between a family and the streets that want to break them. When the enemy steals the kids to force a trade, the devil of the city has to choose his empire or the only people who ever called him dad. If love made him dangerous, what happens when someone tries to take it away? The glass atrium of the downtown mall sparkled in the afternoon sun, its high ceiling creating a cathedral-like atmosphere over the scattered weekday shoppers. Cade Viscari adjusted his perfectly tailored suit jacket as he stepped out of Giovanni's custom tailoring, two stone-faced men in dark suits flanking him like shadows. The click of small shoes on polished tile caught his attention. Two children approached with matching determined expressions. A girl leading slightly ahead of her brother, both with dark hair and sharp, intelligent eyes that seemed to X-ray right through his carefully maintained facade. "Come with us, mister," the girl announced, hands planted on her hips. "Mom says you're our dad now." Cade's bodyguards tensed, but he held up one hand to still them. He studied the children, noting how the boy hung slightly back, watchful but ready to support his sister's bold play. "Jade! Jordan!" A woman's voice cut through the atrium's ambient noise. Kira Brooks hurried toward them, grocery tote swinging from one arm, her face flushed but her spine straight as steel. "I am so sorry about this." But there was no real apology in her eyes when she met Cade's gaze. Instead, he saw calculation, desperation, and a fierce protective instinct that matched his own predatory nature. "Someone's been following us," she said quietly, stepping close enough that only he could hear. "A man. 3 days now. I need—" She swallowed but didn't look away. "I need someone visible enough to make him think twice, just for 24 hours. Cade observed how the twins pressed against their mother's sides, not in fear but in support. The boy, Jordan, had already memorized the positions of both his bodyguards. The girl, Jade, was watching Cade's face with an evaluating expression that belonged on someone 3 times her age. "Of course," he said smoothly, already pulling out his phone. "Family should stay together." 2 black SUVs arrived within minutes. Cade directed his men to take alternate routes, watching as they coordinated the convoy with practiced efficiency. He positioned himself next to the children in the back seat, noting how Kira's hands only trembled slightly as she buckled herself in. "Can we get pretzels?" Jade asked, breaking the tension. "The big, soft ones with extra salt." "And cinnamon sugar," Jordan added quietly, exchanging a look with his sister. Cade nodded to his driver, who smoothly changed course to the food court. The twins chatted about their school day over warm pretzels, creating a perfect tableau of family normalcy for anyone watching. Jordan described his science project about volcanoes, while Jade dramatically reenacted a playground dispute she'd mediated. Kira stayed silent, but Cade caught her watching him interact with her children. He kept his movements deliberate and gentle, his voice modulated to soothing tones he usually reserved for skittish business partners. The sun was setting by the time they reached Kira's apartment building. Cade's men swept the stairwell, while he personally checked every window, door, and possible entry point in the modest 2-bedroom unit. The twins watched with obvious fascination as he tested the fire escape access. "Just tonight," Kira said firmly when he joined her in the narrow hallway. "I appreciate the help, but I need to be clear about boundaries. 24 hours, no strings, no obligations. We're not looking for a permanent arrangement." "For tonight," Cade agreed, his voice low and certain. "I keep you safe." He studied her face in the dim hallway light, noting the shadows under her eyes and the tension in her jaw. "My building has better security. The penthouse suite has 3 bedrooms and round-the-clock surveillance." Kira started to protest, but Jordan tugged at her sleeve. "Mom, he has a point about sightlines and access control." At her startled look, he shrugged. "I watch a lot of spy movies." "And his suit is really nice," Jade added pragmatically. "Bad guys don't wear suits that fancy." A ghost of a smile touched Kira's lips. "Plenty of bad guys wear nice suits, sweetheart." "Yeah, but their shoes don't match this well," Jade insisted, making Cade bite back an unexpected laugh. 15 minutes later, they were all settled in the convoy heading to Cade's building. The twins had their backpacks packed with overnight necessities, and Kira clutched a small overnight bag of her own. She sat ramrod straight, but Cade noticed how she relaxed fractionally every time one of his men reported a clean route over the radio. Jordan had produced a notebook and was sketching what appeared to be the mall's layout, complete with notations about security camera placement. Jade was interrogating one of the guards about his combat training with the serious air of a military inspector. "They're usually more reserved with strangers," Kira said softly. Cade watched as Jade demonstrated what she insisted was a perfect karate chop. "They're remarkable children." "They're everything," she replied, and the fierce love in her voice resonated with something deep in Cade's chest. His phone vibrated with updates from his security team, background checks running, surveillance feeds being monitored, protective details being arranged. On the surface, he maintained his calm, controlled demeanor, but underneath, ancient instincts were awakening, the need to protect, to shelter, to destroy anything that threatened what was his. And somehow, in the space of an afternoon, these three had become his to protect. The SUVs glided into the underground garage like black panthers, their headlights sweeping across polished concrete. Two armed guards stepped forward as the vehicles stopped, their movements precise and practiced. Cade exited first, scanning the space before nodding to Kira and the twins. The elevator required both a keycard and fingerprint scan. Jordan watched the process intently while Jade pressed her nose against the mirrored walls. As they ascended, Kira stood with squared shoulders, her grocery tote clutched close like armor. The doors opened to reveal a marble foyer that gleamed under recessed lighting. A well-dressed woman in her 50s stepped forward, flanked by two more security personnel. "Mrs. Chen," Cade said, "please prepare the Riverview suite for our guests." Before Mrs. Chen could respond, Kira lifted her chin. "We need to establish some ground rules." Her voice was steady, despite her white-knuckled grip on her bag. "First, no lies to my children. If they ask questions, you either tell the truth or say you can't answer." Cade's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in his eyes. "Agreed." "Second, no criminal business discussed around them. I don't care what you do elsewhere, but not here, not now." "Done." He gestured for Mrs. Chen to continue her preparations. "And third," Kira's voice dropped lower, meant for his ears alone, "no touching me. This is a temporary arrangement for protection, nothing more." Cade studied her for a long moment. "I have one condition of my own." His tone was soft but carried an edge of steel. "None of you leave this building without my security team until I determine it's safe. Non-negotiable." The twins had already discovered the floor-to-ceiling windows, pressing their palms against the glass as they pointed out boats on the river below. Their excited chatter filled the tense silence between adults. "Mom," Jade called, "there's a whole library in here, and the beds are huge." Mrs. Chen reappeared with an efficiency that spoke of years managing luxury properties. "The river suite is prepared. Shall I arrange for dinner?" "Grilled cheese," Jordan said immediately, turning from the window. "With the crust cut off?" "And tomato soup," Jade added. "Please," she tacked on, catching her mother's look. Cade nodded to Mrs. Chen. "Have someone deliver new toothbrushes and any other necessities they might need for the night." The next hour passed in a blur of settling in. The twins explored every corner of their suite while Kira unpacked their overnight bags with mechanical precision. Dinner arrived on covered silver trays, the presentation, making even simple comfort food feel elegant. After dinner, Jade insisted on a bedtime story. She pulled a worn paperback from her backpack and thrust it at Cade with the absolute confidence of a child used to being heard. He accepted it carefully as if handed a priceless artifact. Kira watched from the doorway as Cade sat in an armchair, the twins perched on either arm, and read about a magical wardrobe with different voices for each character. His dangerous hands held the book gently, turning pages with unexpected care. As the story wound down, Jordan fidgeted with something in his pocket. Mr. Viscari, could you—" "I have this car, and the axle's bent." He produced a small die-cast vehicle, its wheel hanging at an awkward angle. "I'll take care of it," Cade promised, accepting the toy with the same gravity he'd shown the book. Hours later, when the apartment had settled into night quiet, Kira padded to the kitchen for water. She paused in the doorway, struck by the sight of Cade at the counter. A small desk lamp illuminated his work area, where he bent over Jordan's toy car, a jeweler's screwdriver held in scarred fingers that moved with surgical precision. He didn't look up, but she knew he was aware of her presence. The kitchen clock read 2:17 a.m. "You should be sleeping," he said softly. "So should you." His hands never stopped their careful work. "I don't sleep when my people are vulnerable." The simple statement hung in the air between them. Kira wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly aware she was wearing only pajamas and bare feet. "We're not your people." Now he did look up, his eyes dark and intent. "You are tonight." She watched him work for another moment, noting the other tools laid out in perfect alignment. Tiny pliers, a magnifying glass, what looked like watch repair equipment. His huge hands somehow managed these delicate instruments with incredible control. "Where did you learn to fix toys?" "I learned to fix weapons," he replied honestly, remembering her rule about lies. "The principles are similar, small parts, precise movements, patience." Dawn was beginning to lighten the sky when Cade completed his final security check. He moved through the apartment like a shadow, testing locks, checking sight lines, confirming the position of every guard. In the twins' room, he paused only long enough to leave Jordan's perfectly repaired car on the nightstand. The hall light cast a gentle glow, enough to guide small feet to the bathroom if needed. Kira stood in her doorway, watching him complete his rounds. "Thank you," she whispered, the words escaping before she could catch them. "For all of this." Cade turned, his profile sharp against the pre-dawn sky, visible through the windows. For a moment, they stood in silence as the city below began to wake. The first pale fingers of morning reaching between skyscrapers. Morning light spilled through the penthouse windows, painting golden stripes across marble floors. The scent of butter and maple syrup drifted from the kitchen, where Mrs. Chen supervised the staff preparing breakfast. Jordan was the first to emerge from the guest suite, hair tousled and still in Spider-Man pajamas. "Something smells amazing," he said, climbing onto a bar stool at the kitchen island. Cade looked up from his tablet, where he'd been reviewing security feeds since dawn. "Pancakes, blueberry or chocolate chip?" "Both." Jordan's hopeful expression made even Mrs. Chen smile as she set a plate in front of him. Jade appeared minutes later, followed by Kira, who paused at the domestic scene before her. Cade had traded his suit jacket for a crisp white shirt, sleeves rolled to expose forearms marked with old scars. He helped Jade pour syrup while discussing the day's schedule with surprising attention to detail. "I had the staff prepare an itinerary," he said, sliding a printed sheet toward Kira. "The library here has an excellent children's section. There's craft supplies in the solarium, and the media room is stocked with age-appropriate films." Kira scanned the schedule, noting how carefully it balanced structure with flexibility. "You didn't have to do all this." "Security works better with routine," he replied, but his eyes lingered on the twins' animated breakfast conversation. "The staff will ensure they're comfortable while you work." Setting up her laptop at the kitchen island, Kira tried to focus on payroll for her cleaning company, but she found herself watching Cade throughout the morning. He moved through the apartment with lethal grace, yet softened his presence around the children. When his phone rang, he stepped away to speak in low tones. Gun holsters disappeared beneath suit jackets before he entered rooms where the twins played. By afternoon, Jordan had claimed a window seat in the library, surrounded by books about space and dinosaurs. Jade sprawled on the floor with art supplies, creating what she declared was a family portrait. Mrs. Chen appeared periodically with snacks and gentle reminders about indoor voices. "I've arranged dinner in the private dining room," Cade mentioned casually as sunset approached. "A few business associates will join us." Kira's head snapped up. "That wasn't part of the deal." "Visibility protects them," he countered. "My associates need to see who's under my protection. Word spreads quickly in certain circles." The private dining room gleamed with crystal and silver when they entered that evening. 3 men in expensive suits rose from their seats, their respectful nods to Cade carrying an edge of fear. The twins seemed oblivious to the undercurrent of power, chattering about their day as servers brought out plates of pasta. Halfway through the meal, a young courier stumbled while delivering papers, dropping what looked like a basic flip phone near Jade's chair. Before anyone could move, Cade's hand shot out, crushing the device with controlled force. His smile never wavered as he brushed the pieces aside. "Clumsy," he said pleasantly, but his eyes promised violence. The courier fled. After dinner, Cade personally escorted the twins to their room, checking the nightlight's placement and asking if they wanted the door open or closed. His gentleness with them made his earlier display of force even more striking. Kira found him on the balcony later, his broad shoulders silhouetted against city lights. Wind whipped her ponytail as she approached. "That phone wasn't an accident," she said. "No." He didn't turn around. "Someone testing boundaries." "By threatening children?" Now he did face her, his expression hard. "Fear keeps people alive in my world. They need to understand that touching what's mine carries consequences." We're not yours, Kira snapped, but the wind stole some of her fire. You came to me for protection. His voice dropped lower. I keep what's mine safe, by any means necessary. The city sprawled below them, a maze of lights and shadows. Kira wrapped her arms against the chill, studying the man who'd seamlessly inserted himself into their lives in less than 24 hours. He'd organized their day, anticipated their needs, eliminated threats with terrifying efficiency, all while ensuring the twins felt secure and entertained. The schedule, the activities, all of it, you're already planning beyond tonight, aren't you? Yes. No pretense, no apology. When Kira returned to the guest suite, she found Jordan's toy car placed precisely on his pillow, its wheels perfectly aligned. The repair work was flawless, every detail restored with mechanical precision. She picked it up, turning it over in her hands, understanding that Cade approached everything, from fixing toys to eliminating threats, with the same meticulous attention. In one day, he'd begun quietly reshaping their world, building routines and safety measures around them, with the same careful patience he'd shown with Jordan's broken toy. The realization settled over her like the night air from the balcony, cool, inevitable, and carrying the promise of change. Through the open door, she could hear Jade's soft breathing and Jordan's occasional murmur. The nightlight cast gentle shadows on walls that 24 hours ago had been strange to them. Now somehow the space felt claimed, protected, as if Cade's influence had already seeped into every corner of their temporary shelter. Kira set the car back down, aligning it exactly as she'd found it. Outside the windows, the city continued its nighttime rhythm, unaware that in this high tower, the careful architecture of their lives was being redesigned by hands both dangerous and gentle. Steam rose from the coffee mugs on the marble kitchen island as morning light streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Jordan and Jade sat at the breakfast bar, their legs swinging as they argued over the proper distribution of maple syrup on their pancakes. You're drowning them, Jade protested, reaching for the bottle. Am not, Jordan countered, tilting it for one more generous pour. Kira watched from behind her laptop, hiding a smile, as Mrs. Chen swooped in with fresh fruit to distract them. The domestic scene felt surreal against the backdrop of Cade's luxurious penthouse. He stood by the windows, phone to his ear, his voice too low to hear. The service elevator's quiet ding broke the morning rhythm. Cade's head snapped up, his hand moving instinctively toward his jacket. One of his security team emerged, holding a plain brown envelope. This came through the service entrance, sir. No courier logged. Cade's expression hardened as he took the envelope, carefully examining its seams before opening it. He pulled out a single photograph, and Kira watched his jaw tighten. In 3 long strides, he crossed to where she sat. The photo showed yesterday's mall scene, her twins approaching Cade outside the tailor's shop. A red bullseye had been drawn over Jordan and Jade's figures. In the corner, a chess piece had been stamped in black ink. A rook? Who? Kira whispered, her throat tight. The rook, Cade said, his voice carrying a weight that made her stomach clench. He specializes in psychological warfare, likes to play with his food before striking. Kira glanced at the twins, still absorbed in their breakfast debate. We need to leave. No. Cade's tone left no room for argument. He pressed a button on his phone. Full lockdown, now. The penthouse erupted into controlled chaos. Security teams materialized from discrete posts. Someone activated window sensors, while another guard programmed new elevator protocols. Through it all, Mrs. Chen calmly suggested the children help her bake cookies, shepherding them toward the kitchen with practiced ease. This wasn't the plan, Kira hissed, following Cade down a hallway. One day of visible protection, that's what we agreed to. The plan changed the second someone put a target on your children. He stopped at a reinforced door she hadn't noticed before, pressing his palm to a biometric scanner. The rook doesn't make idle threats. The door opened to reveal a fortified room with supplies, communications equipment, and comfortable seating. Cade turned to her. We're doing a walkthrough with the kids later. We'll call it a secret fort drill. And how long do we stay here? Kira demanded. As long as necessary. His eyes met hers, unflinching. There's no safe exit now. Leaving would make you easier targets, and I don't allow prey in my orbit. The finality in his voice made her shiver. She thought of the crushed phone at dinner, the way he'd eliminated that threat without hesitation. You're saying we're trapped here? I'm saying you're protected here. He stepped closer, his presence filling the space. The rook chose his game piece. Now he deals with mine. Kira closed her eyes, weighing options that didn't exist. The twins have school. I have a business. Which would you prefer? A disrupted routine or dead children? The brutal clarity of his question cut through her resistance. Fine. What do you need from me? Full cooperation, no shortcuts, no rebellion, no testing boundaries? His voice softened marginally. I know how to handle the rook, but I need you working with me, not against me. Throughout the day, Cade's machine moved with precision. A decoy convoy of SUVs departed on schedule. New security protocols were implemented. The twins treated the panic room tour like an adventure, especially when Cade showed them the hidden snack drawer. By evening, the initial shock had faded into a tense new normal. Kira sat on the living room couch, reading aloud from a worn copy of The Hobbit. Jordan and Jade were curled against her shoulders, their breathing deep and even in sleep. The city sparkled beyond the windows, deceptively peaceful. Cade stood in the doorway, his tuxedo jacket discarded, tie loosened after a business dinner he'd conducted via video call. His shoulder rested against the frame as he maintained his vigil, eyes regularly scanning the room's entry points. The gun holster under his arm was visible now, a stark reminder of the danger surrounding them. Kira studied him over the children's heads. This dangerous man who'd switched from ruthless crime boss to protective guardian in the space of 2 days. His presence should have terrified her. Instead, she felt an unsettling combination of fear and security, like standing in the eye of a storm. The twins shifted in their sleep, and Cade's attention immediately focused on the movement. She watched him catalog their positions, their breathing, the distance to the nearest exit. Everything about them had become tactical data in his mental strategy. In the hallway, she could hear the quiet footsteps of his security team, performing regular sweeps. The elevator would remain locked down until morning. The panic room stood ready, its hidden door disguised by expensive paneling. Every angle covered, every scenario planned for. They were in his fortress now, under his protection and his rules. The thought should have made her feel trapped. Instead, as she looked at her sleeping children and the armed sentinel in the doorway, she felt something closer to resignation mixed with gratitude. The rook had chosen his targets poorly. These children might look like easy prey, but their newfound protector was a predator of a different class entirely. Dawn painted the library windows in soft gold as Cade arranged cushions on the floor. The twins watched him with sleepy curiosity, still in their pajamas, while he laid out what looked like a playground course between the bookshelves. Today we're learning special games, he said, his voice gentler than Kira had ever heard it. Important ones that keep you safe. Jordan tilted his head. Like hide and seek? Similar. Cade knelt to their level. But with extra rules that make you stronger. For the next hour, he guided them, through exercises disguised as play. Teaching them to control their breathing when scared became dragon's breath. Memorizing exit routes turned into escape the castle, each lesson wrapped in childhood magic while building survival skills. When you're nervous, Cade demonstrated, place your hand here. He touched his sternum. Feel your heartbeat. Count to 4 as you breathe in. Hold for 4, release for 4. The twins mimicked him, giggling at first, then growing focused as they mastered the rhythm. Kira watched from the doorway, arms crossed, torn between gratitude and grief that her children needed these lessons. Now this, Cade said, presenting 2 delicate silver bracelets, is your secret weapon. The jewelry looked harmless, fashionable, even. But Kira recognized the subtle panic buttons built into the clasps. Jordan fumbled with his, fingers clumsy on the mechanism. Like this. Cade's hands enveloped Jordan's smaller ones, guiding them through the motion. Squeeze here, then slide. Practice until it feels natural. His patience surprised her. No sharp commands or frustrated sighs, just calm repetition until Jordan got it right, then genuine praise that made the boy beam. The morning passed in similar exercises. Cade taught them to identify safe zones, to move quietly, to trust their instincts about strangers. He made it a game, but Kira saw the steel beneath his smile. These weren't optional skills anymore. Around midday, the relative peace shattered. Kira was helping the twins with lunch when movement on one of Cade's security monitors caught her attention. A maintenance worker in standard uniform, kneeling by a hallway console, something off about his movements. Before she could process why, Cade appeared like a shadow. 3 precise motions, too fast to follow, and the man's wrist bent at an impossible angle. No screaming, just a sharp inhale as Cade pinned him against the wall. Kids, eyes on me, Kira commanded, shoving a chair between them and the scene. The edge caught her palm, breaking skin. Guards materialized, efficiently removing the intruder. In the aftermath, Kira's hands wouldn't stop shaking. The twins huddled close, quiet but not crying, already learning to process danger. "Let me see that," Kate approached slowly, indicating her scraped palm. She almost refused, but exhaustion won. He cleaned and bandaged the wound with surprising gentleness, his own hands steady. "I apologize," he said quietly. "That shouldn't have happened where they could see. They're going to see worse, aren't they?" His silence was answer enough. After a moment, he straightened. "New house rule. All security tests happen 2 floors down from now on. This level stays clean." The rest of the day passed in careful normalcy. Mrs. Chen baked cookies. The twins did homework. Guards rotated shifts with clockwork precision. By evening, the morning's lessons and midday violence felt almost dreamlike. They gathered in the media, room after dinner, lights dimmed as a nature documentary played. Something about deep-sea creatures, their bioluminescence casting ethereal glows through dark water. The twins were fascinated, asking questions until their voices grew heavy with sleep. "Thank you," Kira said softly, not looking at Cade. For the lessons, for the protection, for trying to preserve some innocence in all this. She wasn't sure which she meant most. She felt rather than saw his acknowledgement. The space between them hummed with unspoken things, fear, gratitude, awareness of how quickly their lives had entangled. Jordan and Jade had drifted off on the sectional, limbs sprawled in childhood abandon. Cade moved first, gathering a cashmere throw from a nearby chair. His movements were careful as he covered them, tucking corners with unexpected tenderness. Kira reached for the remote, clicking off the documentary. The screen went dark, turning the window wall into a mirror. Their reflection stood too close in the glass. Her small frame, his larger one, the sleeping children between them like a bridge and a barrier. For a moment, neither moved. The city glittered beyond their reflection, reminding her of how far they were from her old life, her planned escape routes, her illusion of control. Now there was only this fortress in the sky, this dangerous man who taught her children survival games, this new reality where safety and threat wore the same face. The tension stretched, elastic and fragile. Then Cade stepped back, maintaining the careful distance he'd kept since she'd set her boundaries that first night. Kira retreated too, their reflections separating like ships passing in the dark. Without speaking, they went their separate ways for the night. Cade to his security rounds, Kira to the guest suite where she'd likely lie awake planning contingencies that no longer existed. The twins slept on, innocent to the currents shifting around them, their new silver bracelets catching moonlight like stars. Morning light filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting long shadows across the penthouse's polished floors. Jordan and Jade stumbled from their room, hair mussed and eyes still heavy with sleep, making a beeline for the kitchen island. "Waffles," Jade demanded, climbing onto a stool. "With strawberries?" "And chocolate chips," Jordan added, already reaching for the syrup. Cade, who had been reviewing security feeds on his tablet, set it aside without hesitation. "Mrs. Chen's got the batter ready." The domestic scene felt surreal to Kira, a crime boss in a black sweater that probably cost more than her monthly rent, helping her children arrange toppings on Belgian waffles. Yet here they were, playing house in a fortified tower while danger circled below. After breakfast, the twins sprawled in the living room with an elaborate wooden block set Cade had produced from somewhere. Their concentrated faces and quiet cooperation gave Kira a moment to breathe, to process. She found herself drifting toward the kitchen where Cade stood, his presence both unsettling and oddly grounding. The morning light caught the silver at his temples, softening the hard lines of his face. "I should tell you why," she said quietly, watching the twins stack blocks with careful precision. "Why the rook's really after us?" Cade waited, patient and still. A predator's stillness, but one that made her feel inexplicably safe. 3 years ago, I was doing books for what seemed like a legitimate import company. Her fingers traced patterns on the cool marble counter. The numbers didn't add up. Small discrepancies at first, then larger ones. I followed the trail. Shell corporations, fake invoices, all leading to weapons purchases, the Rook's armories. "You tried to quit. I tried to disappear." She smiled without humor. "But people like him don't let loose ends dangle." The intimidation started small, broken windows, slashed tires. Then photos of the kids at school appeared in our mailbox. Understanding darkened Cade's expression. "So, you've been running since?" "Careful running. New apartments every few months, different schools, cash only. Until now." The silence stretched between them, heavy with shared knowledge of what it means to live with fear, as a constant companion. Then Cade spoke, his voice carrying an edge she hadn't heard before. "My father believed in lessons," he said, eyes fixed on some distant point. "Everything was a lesson. Knives were his favorite teachers." His sleeve rode up as he reached for his coffee, revealing old scars that told their own stories. He called it preparation, said the world would cut deeper if I wasn't ready. Kira's throat tightened. The casual brutality of it, the way he stated it like weather. These things happened, and now we're here. "You terrify me," she whispered, the truth of it raw in her mouth. His eyes met hers, intense and impossibly gentle. "Only to everyone but you." The words hung between them, a revelation that shifted everything sideways. She wasn't sure who moved first, but suddenly they were too close, the kitchen island no longer a barrier but an anchor, as he cupped her face with scarred hands. The kiss was inevitable and impossible all at once. His mouth was soft, despite everything else about him being hard edges and careful control. She tasted coffee and promise and danger, her hands fisting in his sweater, as if to anchor herself in this new reality where safety felt like this. Small footsteps pulled them apart. Jade stood in the doorway, empty water glass in hand, eyes wide with curiosity. "Mom's face is all red," she announced, to no one in particular, filling her glass at the refrigerator dispenser before skipping back to her blocks. Kira touched her lips, still tingling, while Cade cleared his throat and stepped back. The moment scattered like light on water, leaving them both a little stunned at what had just happened. The rest of the day unfolded in careful normalcy. The twins had online classes, their teachers accustomed to remote learning after so many moves. Cade worked from his office, door open, so he could hear the household movements while conducting what sounded like very polite threats in multiple languages. Mrs. Chen made pizza for dinner, letting the kids choose toppings and teaching them to knead dough. The simple activity felt precious now, watching them laugh with flour-dusted hands while guards stood discreet watch at every entrance. Throughout the day, Cade moved through the penthouse like a shadow with purpose. He interviewed staff again, checking backgrounds and connections with meticulous attention. Each person who entered was screened, each delivery inspected, each security feed monitored for patterns. Night fell slowly, the city lighting up in stages below them. The twins went to bed with minimal protest, tired from their day of building and baking. Kira tucked them in, noting how they'd already adapted to this new space, claiming it as theirs with scattered toys and artwork taped to walls. Sleep proved elusive, though. After an hour of staring at the ceiling, Kira padded out to the balcony, wrapped in a borrowed cashmere throw. The autumn air bit through the soft fabric, but the cold helped clear her head. She wasn't surprised when Cade joined her, keeping a careful distance that somehow felt more intimate than touch. They stood in companionable silence, watching aircraft warning lights pulse on distant buildings while the city hummed below. The kiss from this morning sat between them, unacknowledged but impossible to ignore. Desire crackled in the space they weren't closing, a current of possibility neither was ready to grasp. Not yet, not with so much at stake. But it was there in the way he angled his body toward hers, in how her pulse jumped when their hands brushed the railing, in the heated glances they couldn't quite suppress. Promise, wrapped in patience, waiting for the right moment to ignite. Morning light spilled through the penthouse windows as Mrs. Chen served fresh croissants and fruit. The twins argued over who got the biggest strawberry while Kira sipped her coffee, watching Cade scan security feeds on his tablet. The service elevator chimed. A courier delivered a crisp manila envelope marked urgent, confidential from Metropolitan Medical Labs, one of the city's most respected clinics. Cade's security chief verified the messenger's credentials before passing it to his boss. Cade broke the seal, expression shifting as he read. Something unusual flickered across his face. Uncertainty, maybe even fear. He passed the document to Kira without a word. She scanned the contents. Coffee forgotten. DNA analysis. Paternity confirmation. 99.7% match between Cade Viscari and Jordan and Jade Brooks. Dad? Jade peered over, catching glimpses of official letterhead. Is that about us? Jordan abandoned his breakfast, crowding close. Are you really our dad? The twins' faces lit up with possibility, hope blooming bright and dangerous. Cade's carefully maintained control cracked, revealing something raw and vulnerable beneath. This is impossible, Kira whispered, hands shaking. We never. Her voice rose sharply. What kind of game are you playing? Kitchen, Cade ordered quietly, nodding to Mrs. Chen to watch the kids. He guided Kira around the corner, keeping his movements slow and non-threatening. You forged this, she hissed, shoving the papers at his chest. You're trying to trap us here permanently. I didn't, His voice was low and tense. "I swear on my life, Kira. This blindsided me too." "Then explain how—" She caught herself lowering her volume. "Explain how you're suddenly their father when we never even met before the mall." Cade pulled out his phone, dialing quickly. "Marco, need immediate verification on chain of custody for medical documents just delivered. Full trace, collection, processing, authorization. Yes, now." He switched to speakerphone so Kira could hear. The twins' voices drifted from the dining room, excited speculation about having a real dad mixing with the clink of forks against plates. The sound made something in Cade's expression fracture further. "Hey kids," he called, masking the tension. "Who wants to build a blanket fort?" Their squeals of delight cut through the charged atmosphere. Cade gathered premium throws and cushions, helping them construct an elaborate hideout in the living room. He crawled inside with them, his broad frame barely fitting. "Once upon a time," he began, voice pitched for storytelling, "there was a very serious penguin who wore a bow tie to breakfast." Their giggles filtered through the blankets. Kira watched, throat tight, as this dangerous man made silly voices and sound effects just to keep their children's world intact while adults sorted out impossible truths. By afternoon, Marco's investigation confirmed the lab work appeared legitimate. Proper procedures, verified staff, no signs of tampering. Cade doubled the security detail anyway, positioning additional teams on adjacent buildings. "This kind of document doesn't appear randomly," he explained, pacing his office. "Someone's orchestrating moves using DNA results as psychological warfare." He ran a hand through his hair, a rare tell. "The timing's too perfect. First the threats, now this." Kira barely heard him, lost in mental arithmetic. 8 years ago. She counted backwards through cities and names and men she'd rather forget. The club in Miami, the businessman in Seattle, that awful week in Chicago when she'd been so desperate for cash. She didn't realize she was hyperventilating until Cade pressed a glass of water into her hands. "Breathe," he instructed quietly. "The kids are safe. We'll figure this out." Evening settled over the city, painting shadows across empty rooms. The twins slept soundly, exhausted from 40 adventures, and oblivious to the adults' turmoil. Kira sat alone in the guest room, surrounded by scattered photos from her phone, evidence of their life before, when parentage seemed simple and certain. In his office, Cade stood at the window, city lights reflecting off the glass. On his desk, a newly printed photo showed the twins beaming from their blanket fort. His own surprised smile caught in the selfie Mrs. Chen had snapped. He touched the frame gently, scarred fingers tracing their faces. Someone had forged these results, he was certain, but they'd weaponized the one thing he couldn't easily dismiss: his growing attachment to these children who'd marched into his life demanding protection, who trusted him without reservation, who looked at him like he could be more than the sum of his violence. The photo caught the exact moment he'd realized he would burn down empires to keep them safe, DNA results or not. Someone was counting on exactly that protective instinct, using it to force his hand in some larger game. In the silence of his office, surrounded by security feeds and weapon caches, the most dangerous man in the city stood perfectly still, undone by a family photo and the impossible hunger for something he'd never dared want. Down the hall, Kira wiped tears from another photo. The twins' first day of kindergarten, when she'd believed she could outrun the past. Now the past was catching up, wearing a killer's face and carrying papers that threatened to rewrite everything she thought she knew about their story. The penthouse hummed with unspoken questions. In the twins' room, a nightlight cast star patterns on the ceiling while they dreamed of finally having a father. Guards patrolled corridors, watching for physical threats while emotional ones had already breached the walls. And somewhere in the city, someone waited to see how their carefully placed bomb of forged affection would reshape these new boundaries of family and fear. Dawn crept over the city skyline, painting the windows in pale gold. 2 black sedans appeared at 6:47 a.m., rolling past the service entrance once, twice, 3 times. Cade tracked their pattern through security feeds, jaw tight. The buzz came at 7:12 a.m., a commercial drone swooping too close to the penthouse balcony. Jordan spotted it first, through the kitchen window while reaching for cereal. "Cool, can we get one?" he asked, pressing his nose to the glass. Cade's hand settled on the boy's shoulder, gentle but firm. "Actually, I have a special mission for you and Jade. Remember our secret fort?" The twins' eyes lit up. Kira caught Cade's subtle head tilt toward the panic room and quickly gathered snacks and tablets. "Race you there!" Jade called, already running. Their excitement covered the sound of Cade's men moving into position. "Stay with them," Cade told Kira, voice low. Full lockdown protocol. He touched her wrist briefly, then strode to the security hub where screens showed multiple angles of the building's perimeter. The first attacker came through the service corridor at 7:23 a.m. Cade met him at the elevator bank, reading the man's telegraph before the knife cleared its sheath. 3 precise movements: block, disarm, disable. The blade clattered on marble. A second man rounded the corner, already firing. Cade used the first attacker as a shield, then closed the distance. His violence was economical, almost elegant, no wasted motion, no hesitation. When it ended, both men lay unconscious, secured with zip ties, while Cade's team swept for others. Kira emerged from the panic room once the all-clear sounded. She found Cade in the kitchen, washing blood from a shallow cut on his forearm. Without speaking, she took the cloth from his hands. The sink ran pink as she cleaned his split knuckles. Her hands remained steady, even as her breath hitched. Cade stood perfectly still, watching her face in the morning light. "The kids?" he asked. "Building a fort from couch cushions. Mrs. Chen is teaching them Chinese chess." She dabbed antiseptic on a particularly raw spot. "You moved like water out there, beautiful and lethal." "You weren't meant to see that." "But I did." She met his eyes. "And I'm still here." The tension that had been building for days crystallized in that moment, her fingers on his wounds, his pulse under her touch, the shared understanding that they'd crossed some final line. That night, after stories and kisses goodnight, after security sweeps and deadbolts, they collided in the hallway outside his office. The first kiss was desperate, all pent-up fear and relief. The second was slower, deeper, acclaiming. They made it to his room somehow, shedding barriers of clothing and pretense. His hands shook when they touched her skin. This man who never hesitated in violence found himself trembling in tenderness. "I need to know you're sure," he whispered against her throat. "I'm sure." She drew him closer. "I choose this. I choose you." There was nothing rushed about their joining. Each touch carried the weight of days spent watching, wanting, holding back. He mapped her body with reverent patience. She discovered the softer man beneath his armor. When pleasure crested, it felt like falling and flying at once. After, wrapped in expensive sheets and shared warmth, they planned like warriors. Kira would pull old financial records, trace money trails that might lead to whoever forged the DNA test. Cade would leverage contacts, squeeze informants, follow the paper trail backward. "Someone wants to force my hand," he mused, trailing fingers along her spine. "Make me invest completely in protecting you all by claiming biological stakes." "They didn't need to," Kira said softly. "You were already all in the moment the twins walked up to you in that mall." He couldn't deny it. Those children had bypassed his defenses with their unflinching trust, their easy acceptance of his protection. The forged test just gave form to what he'd already begun to feel. Close to midnight, Kira dozed against his shoulder, her breathing deep and even. Cade kept watch, cataloging threats and assets, weighing who stood to gain from this elaborate deception. His free hand stroked her hair while his mind calculated angles. The rook was the obvious suspect, but something felt off about the timing. This kind of psychological warfare required intimate knowledge of pressure points. Someone knew exactly how to weaponize Cade's growing attachment to this makeshift family. Through the open door, he could hear the twins' soft snores from their room down the hall. In just days, they'd rearranged his carefully ordered world with their sticky fingers and endless questions. Now someone was using that connection against him, betting he wouldn't walk away once paternity was suggested. They were right. Test results didn't matter anymore. These children were his to protect, his to cherish, his to guide away from the shadows he lived in. And Kira, she'd seen his darkness today and chosen to stay, to heal rather than run. His security teams reported all clear status through his earpiece. The building's perimeter was locked down, escape routes prepared, contingencies in place. Yet Cade knew the real threat wasn't physical. It was emotional. Someone was betting his heart against his empire, using love as leverage. Kira stirred slightly, pressing closer in her sleep. Cade tightened his arm around her, eyes fixed on the door, mind racing through scenarios. Tomorrow they'd hunt for answers, but tonight he'd guard their rest and savor this unexpected peace, even knowing it was probably part of someone else's endgame. Dawn crept through the blinds as Kira's fingers flew across her laptop keyboard. The apartment was quiet except for the soft clicking of keys and the distant sound of the twins still sleeping. She'd been up since 4, diving deep into cloud backups she'd carefully preserved from her accounting days. The screen's glow cast shadows across her face as she followed the money trail. Numbers didn't lie, they told stories if you knew how to read them. And the story was making her stomach turn. Found something, she muttered, opening another spreadsheet. The ledger entries wove a pattern she'd missed years ago, connecting shell companies, weapons purchases, and a name that made her blood run cold. Marcus Viscari, Cade's cousin. Her hands trembled as she dug deeper. Marcus had worked for the Rook, handling dirty money and dirtier deals until a job went wrong 5 years ago. The timing aligned perfectly with the twins' conception. The DNA test wasn't forged. It was deliberately misleading. Of course it showed familial markers matching Cade. The real father had been his own blood. Bile rose in her throat. She pushed back from the kitchen island, needing air. The truth felt like acid in her chest. "Mom." Jade appeared in the doorway, rubbing sleep from her eyes. "Can we have pancakes?" "Of course, baby," Kira forced a smile. "Go wake your brother. I'll start breakfast." As soon as the kids disappeared, she texted Cade to meet her in his office. He arrived minutes later, suit already perfect, despite the early hour. "I found it." She turned the laptop toward him. "The biological connection, it's real, but not how they made it look." She watched understanding dawn in his eyes as he read. His jaw tightened, hands gripping the desk edge until his knuckles went white. "Marcus." The name came out like a curse. "That treacherous bastard worked for the Rook while wearing my family's name. I'm so sorry." She reached for him, but he was already pulling away, shoulders rigid. "Don't!" His voice was ice. I can't be here right now." He left without another word, footsteps echoing down the hall. Kira heard the elevator doors open and close, taking him to the basement gym, where he went to work out his demons. In the kitchen, she found Mrs. Chen, already starting breakfast. The house manager's kind eyes held understanding. "Perhaps the children would enjoy making cookies today," she suggested. "Activity helps when hearts are heavy." Kira nodded gratefully. "That's perfect. Thank you." The morning passed in measured cups of flour and sugar, small hands sticky with dough, laughter that almost masked the tension. Jordan and Jade competed to create the most elaborate cookie shapes while Kira checked her phone compulsively, finding no messages. 4 floors below, Cade was destroying himself in the gym. His security feed showed him sparring with 3 men at once, taking hits he could have blocked, dealing punishment with cold precision, working out the rage and shame that his own blood had tainted these children's lives before he ever knew them. Afternoon stretched into evening. The cookies cooled on racks, and the twins played video games in their room. Kira prepared a simple dinner, pasta with garlic bread, comfort food from her own childhood. She left a plate in the kitchen for Cade, covered with foil to keep warm. Hours later, she heard him finally emerge from the gym. His footsteps paused in the kitchen, then continued past without entering. Near midnight, she lay awake in the guest room, staring at the ceiling. The space beside her felt achingly empty. She wanted to go to him, to break this frozen silence, but pride and uncertainty held her back. He'd made it clear he needed space. In his own room, Cade sat in darkness, the city lights painting patterns on the floor. The cold pasta sat heavy in his stomach. He'd eaten mechanically, tasting nothing. His knuckles were split again, body aching from punishment he'd chosen. He thought of Kira's face when she'd reached for him, how he'd flinched away, the hurt in her eyes. But the fury and disgrace had been too raw. He couldn't risk letting that darkness touch her or the children. Marcus had been the family disappointment, the cousin who chose the wrong side. Finding out he'd sired the twins felt like poison in Cade's veins. Those bright, beautiful children carrying the blood of a traitor who'd worked for their enemy. He wanted to go to her, to apologize for shutting down, but the words stuck in his throat. She deserved better than his tainted legacy. In their separate rooms, they both lay sleepless. Kira curled around a pillow, telling herself he needed time to process. Cade stared at the ceiling, convincing himself she wouldn't want comfort from someone whose family had caused such pain. The night stretched endless between them. Neither heard the other's restless movements, the quiet sighs, the moments of nearly getting up to bridge the gap. Both assumed rejection waited on the other side of that door. Pride and fear built walls of silence. Each thought they were protecting the other by staying away. Each ached for connection they believed would be refused. The truth of Marcus's betrayal hung between them like smoke, clouding judgment and feeding doubts. Tomorrow would need answers, plans, decisions. But tonight they remained apart, equally certain of unworthiness, equally wrong about being unwanted. In their room, the twins slept peacefully, unaware of the emotional storm surrounding them. Their steady breathing carried through the quiet halls, a reminder of innocence untouched by adult complications. They were the heart of the situation, and the reason neither adult could simply walk away no matter how painful the revelations became. The laptop chimed at 10:47 a.m. Kira clicked the incoming message, then felt her stomach drop. The video opened on her familiar face, sitting across from Marco DeLuca, the Rook's right hand, at Cafe Luna 3 weeks ago. The footage had been edited, stripped of context. Her tense posture looked relaxed, her fierce warnings transformed into casual conversation. Someone had even added a laugh track, making it seem like she was sharing jokes with the enemy. "Cade," her voice cracked. "You need to see this." He materialized behind her chair, one hand braced on the desk. She felt him go rigid as the doctored scene played out. "When was this?" His tone was deadly quiet. 3 weeks ago, but it's not what it looks like. I went to warn them off. I recorded everything on my phone, but it died mid-conversation and the file corrupted during backup. You met with Marco DeLuca without telling me. Each word fell like ice. I didn't know you then. I was trying to protect my children the only way I knew how. She turned to face him. Cade, please, you know me. For one terrible moment, doubt darkened his eyes. Then his phone buzzed. A priority alert from the twin school. The Sanctuary Academy was Cade's pride, heavily secured and staffed with vetted teachers. But the alert described every parent's nightmare. Jordan and Jade had vanished during morning recess. The teacher's aide assigned to their class was missing too. Security breach at the school. Cade was already moving, barking orders into his phone. Full lockdown, no one in or out. Pull camera feeds from the last hour. Kira's world tilted sideways. The kids? They're gone? We'll find them. His voice held lethal promise. Within minutes, his security team confirmed the worst. The new teacher's aide, Sarah Mills, had orchestrated the abduction. Her background check was flawless because it was forged. She'd been placed there weeks ago, waiting for the perfect moment. The message arrived exactly 1 hour later, text appearing on both their phones simultaneously. Trade the mother or keep the echoes of your family. Cade's response was immediate and comprehensive. He activated every contact in his network, from dock workers to traffic camera operators. Money flowed freely, bribes to loosen tongues, rewards for useful intel. 3 of his most reliable informants were tasked with working their street connections. Kira paced the penthouse, sick with fear and guilt. This is my fault, the video, the kids, it's all connected. Stop! Cade caught her shoulders. The Rook planned this. He's using the video to create doubt, trying to split us when we need to be united. She saw the truth of it in his eyes. He believed her now, completely. But that trust had come at a terrible price. Hours crawled by. Cade's men reported from across the city, ports locked down, private airfields monitored, vehicle checkpoints established at major arteries. No sign of the twins or their captors. Kira couldn't sit still. She pulled up maps on her laptop, cross-referencing known Rook properties with possible escape routes. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, old skills resurfacing as she dug through property records and shell companies. At 9:47 p.m., Cade's phone lit up. One of his tech specialists had found something on archived traffic cameras. A black van with missing plates turning onto an access road that led to abandoned rail yards. Further investigation revealed unusual movement along a decommissioned train spur. Cargo cars being shifted without official documentation. The line ran through industrial wasteland outside the city limits, perfect for clandestine operations. It's them, Kira's voice was certain. The Rook uses rail lines for dead drops. I found the pattern in their shipping manifest years ago. They move contraband through obsolete spurs because no one monitors them anymore. Cade studied the satellite view. Show me. She opened her archived files, pulling up highlighted routes and timestamps. Here, see how the movements cluster around these 3 points? They're not random. They follow a schedule, rotating between secure locations. While she worked, Cade moved with deadly purpose. He stripped off his suit jacket and shoulder holster, checking each weapon with mechanical precision before resecuring them. Extra magazines disappeared into custom pockets. A matte black knife found its home against his ribs. The sky outside was lightening toward dawn, the city's bright facade dimming as natural light crept in. Kira's guards remained vigilant, but their focus had shifted, no longer restraining, now protecting. She had proven her loyalty in ways that mattered. The most likely transfer point is here. She pointed to an abandoned switching station. It's remote enough for privacy, but accessible from multiple directions. Perfect for their kind of operation. Cade leaned over her shoulder, memorizing the layout. His presence was solid warmth against her back, grounding her racing thoughts. They had moved past doubt into absolute unity of purpose. Keep digging, he said quietly. Find me anything else in those records that could give us an advantage. I'll have a team monitoring your phone. The second you spot a pattern or connection, it comes straight to me. She nodded, fingers already flying over the keys. The fear was still there, but it had crystallized into something sharp and useful. She was done being a victim. Now she was a weapon, aimed straight at the heart of the Rook's operation. Outside, the city stirred to life, unaware of the war about to erupt in its forgotten spaces. Cade moved like a shadow through the penthouse, gathering intel from his teams, coordinating movements with military precision. Every piece was falling into place for the coming storm. The twins were out there somewhere, probably scared, but certainly alive. They were too valuable as leverage to harm. That knowledge kept Kira functioning, kept her mind clear as she attacked the data with renewed purpose. She would find the pattern that would lead them to her children. And then the Rook would learn exactly what happened when you threatened a mother's babies. Dawn hadn't yet broken when Cade's first team breached the downtown safe house. They moved like liquid shadow through the pre-dawn streets, communication reduced to hand signals and synchronized movements. The first location yielded nothing but empty rooms and cold coffee cups. The second raid hit pay dirt. Marcus Chen, the Rook's numbers man, barely had time to reach for his phone before Cade's men secured him. They found him cowering in a luxury condo surrounded by 3 screens still running financial algorithms. Cade entered last, his presence filling the room like smoke. "The paternity report. Start talking." Chen's eyes darted between the armed men, calculating odds. "I don't know what." Cade moved. One precise strike had Chen gasping, clutching his throat. "Again." "It was a setup," Chen wheezed. "The Rook, he needed you emotional, predictable." Another desperate breath. "Your cousin's DNA, close enough to forge a match, make you think the twins were blood." The manipulation was elegant in its simplicity. Use Cade's hidden desire for family against him, ensure his protective instincts would override tactical judgment. The Rook had read him perfectly. Across town, Kira was having her own breakthrough. The florist's shop across from the cafe had been upgrading their security system the day of her confrontation with the consigliere. Their backup camera, mounted temporarily during installation, had captured everything. The raw footage told the truth. The consigliere approaching her table uninvited, his threatening gesture hidden by his jacket, Kira's immediate departure. No friendly negotiation, no betrayal, just a woman protecting herself and her children. She downloaded the video to her phone, determination hardening her spine. The guards Cade assigned watched her carefully, but they weren't prepared for direct defiance. She walked straight past them, head high, and climbed into Cade's waiting convoy before anyone could stop her. The lead guard reached for the door handle. Kira locked it. Through the bulletproof glass, she met Cade's eyes as he approached. He'd clearly come straight from interrogating someone. There was blood on his cuff. She rolled down the window just enough to be heard. Side by side, or not at all. For a long moment he studied her, then he nodded to his men, circled the vehicle, and slid in beside her. Without comment, he fastened her seatbelt and handed her an earpiece identical to his own. "Chen talked," he said, voice low as the convoy pulled out. "The paternity report was manufactured to ensure I'd react personally instead of strategically." His jaw tightened. "It worked. I found this." Kira showed him the recovered footage. "The Rook's people edited the cafe video to create doubt between us, but here's the original." They watched together as the truth played out on her phone screen. When it ended, Cade's hand found hers in the darkness of the car. A silent acknowledgement, an apology, a promise. They bent over Kira's laptop, combining Chen's intel with her archived ledger notes. The pattern emerged clearly now, a network of abandoned rail spurs used for moving sensitive cargo. One location stood out, a defunct switching station, perfect for temporary holding. "Here," Kira pointed. The manifests show regular activity despite the station being officially closed. Small movements, carefully timed to avoid notice. Cade studied the satellite view while coordinating with his teams through the earpiece. 3 access points. Heavy cover from the old cargo containers. They'll have spotters on the high ground here and here. The convoy crossed the river as first light painted the sky in shades of pearl and gold. Every second since the twins' abduction had been measured, mapped, and maximized. Now they had a target. In the growing light, Kira could see the city changing around them. Industrial zones replacing residential areas, abandoned tracks appearing between overgrown lots, the landscape of her children's captivity. Cade's men moved with practiced efficiency, convoy splitting and reforming to shake any tails. Each vehicle knew its role, each driver their exact timing. Nothing was left to chance. Through her earpiece, Kira heard the tactical chatter, teams getting into position, surveillance reporting movement at the target site, weapons being checked and rechecked. "Stay close to me," Cade said quietly. "No matter what happens. The Rook wants to separate us. We don't give him that opening." Kira nodded, her hand finding the panic button on her new bracelet. She might not be a soldier, but she understood strategy. Together they were stronger than the sum of their parts. The sun crept higher as they approached the rail yard, painting long shadows across broken concrete and rusted metal. Their convoy moved with precision, each vehicle taking its assigned position according to the plan they'd built from Chen's confession and Kira's research. Everything had led to this moment, from that first meeting in the mall to the forged paternity test to the twins' abduction. The Rook had orchestrated every move, trying to force them into predictable patterns. But he'd miscalculated. He'd assumed Cade's possessive instincts would make him reckless. He'd thought Kira's fear would make her run. Instead, they'd found strength in each other, turning his manipulation into unity. Through the windshield, the abandoned switching station loomed ahead. Kira could feel the weight of the moment, the culmination of every careful step that had brought them here. Her children were close. She could feel it in her bones. Cade's hand found hers again, a brief squeeze of reassurance. In the growing light, his expression was carved from stone, but his touch was gentle. They'd moved beyond doubt into absolute trust, forged in the pressure of these desperate hours. The convoy slowed, taking final positions as the sun cleared the horizon. Every second since the twins' abduction had been used to maximum effect, leading them here with surgical precision. Now it was time to show the Rook exactly what happened when you threaten the wrong family. Morning light spilled across the train yard's rusted kingdom. Freight cars cast long shadows over cracked concrete, their metal skin peeling in rust-red sheets. Kira adjusted the thin ballistic vest beneath her jacket, the ledger heavy in her hands. Behind her, Cade and his men dissolved into the maze of abandoned rolling stock like smoke. The Rook waited near an old switching station, precision-pressed suit, incongruous against the industrial decay. 2 guards flanked him, weapons visible. The twins were nowhere in sight. "Ms. Brooks." His smile was measured, empty. "I see you brought what I asked for." Kira stepped forward, keeping her movements steady. Through her earpiece, she heard Cade's nearly silent breath. "Let's discuss terms." "The ledger first." The Rook extended his hand. "The children first," she countered, opening the file to show columns of damning numbers. "You know what this contains. Every transaction, every shell company, every weapons cache purchased through my old firm." His expression tightened. "You've caused quite a bit of trouble protecting those records." "I'm a bookkeeper. We're detail-oriented." She took another step, drawing his focus. In her peripheral vision, a shadow shifted, Cade's men getting into position. "Tell me something. How did you launder the artillery purchases? The shipping manifests never quite lined up." The Rook's eyes lit with professional pride. "Perfect. Keep him talking." "Multiple routing points," he explained, warming to the topic. "Small quantities through different shell corporations. The art is in the distribution." Behind him, a guard disappeared silently into the shadows. Then another, Cade's team, moving like ghosts. Kira nodded, pretending absorption. "Smart, but risky splitting the shipments. More points of failure. Unless you control every point." The Rook's smile sharpened. "Which I do. Now, enough games." The ledger. A door creaked in the switching station. Jade appeared, a guard's hand on her shoulder. Her chin was up, but Kira saw the tremor in her small frame. "Where's Jordan?" Kira demanded. "Safe. For now." The Rook drew a sleek pistol. "The ledger, Ms. Brooks. I won't ask again." Kira's heart thundered, but her voice stayed level. "Let me see both children first. Then you get your proof." "You're not in a position to negotiate." He grabbed Jade, pulling her against him as a shield. The gun pressed against her temple. Jade's eyes met Kira's, bright with fear and determination, such a brave girl. "Actually," Kira said softly, "I am." She stepped forward, directly into the pistol's line of sight. Her body blocked Jade completely. "You want to shoot a child? You'll have to kill her mother first, in broad daylight, with witnesses." The Rook's composure cracked. His gun hand shifted up instinctively, barrel rising above Jade's head. That microscopic adjustment was all Cade needed. The shot was precisely placed, through the Rook's shoulder, spinning him away from Jade. Before his guards could react, Cade's team emerged from cover. The takedown was swift, clinical. "Mommy," Jade launched herself into Kira's arms. "The boy!" Cade growled, hauling the Rook up by his collar. "Where?" "Storage office," the Rook gasped. "West side." Cade's men moved immediately. Moments later, Jordan appeared, running full tilt toward his family. Kira gathered both twins close, breathing in their familiar scent. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Cade's expression was granite as he surveyed the scene. With precise efficiency, he began arranging the aftermath. Civilians separated from combatants, evidence positioned to tell the right story. The Rook's own records would bury him. "Time to go," Cade said softly, one hand on Kira's lower back. "Medical team's waiting at home." The ride back to the penthouse passed in a blur of relief and adrenaline crash. The twins curled against Kira, neither willing to let go. Cade made calls, his voice a low murmur of authority and protection. Sunlight flooded the penthouse living room as medics checked the children. No injuries, just fatigue and hunger. Kira sat on the couch with both twins wrapped in a soft blanket, their weight solid and real against her sides. Cade paced nearby, phone to his ear, issuing instructions that somehow sounded like a lullaby. His free hand would brush a twin's hair or squeeze Kira's shoulder as he passed, constant tactile reassurance that his family was safe, was here, was within reach. Jordan dozed against Kira's right shoulder, exhausted by the ordeal. Jade fought sleep on her left, determined to keep watch like she'd seen Cade do. "Rest, sweetheart," Kira whispered, pressing a kiss to her daughter's forehead. "We're safe now. Promise?" Jade's voice was small. "Promise," Cade answered, ending his call. He crouched in front of them, his usual intensity softened. "Nothing gets past me, not ever again." Jade studied him with solemn eyes, then nodded once and finally let her own eyes close. Cade remained there, a sentinel in an expensive suit, watching over what was his. The morning sun caught the silver at his temples, the scars on his knuckles, the vigilant set of his shoulders. A dangerous man made gentle by love. Outside, the city hummed with normal morning traffic. Inside, time seemed suspended in amber, this perfect moment of safety and belonging. Kira felt the last of her tension ease as Cade moved to stand guard by the windows, his profile sharp against the light. The twins' breathing deepened into sleep, small hands still clutching her shirt. Cade's quiet voice continued in the background, orchestrating the aftermath of their victory. Everything that mattered in Kira's world was within these walls, within arm's reach. After so much running, so much fear, they were finally, truly home. The healing unfolds in quiet moments, like pearls on a string. Each day brings small victories and tender adjustments as their makeshift family finds its rhythm. The twins start therapy on Wednesdays with Dr. Chen, who specializes in childhood trauma. Jordan draws detailed maps of safe spaces, while Jade acts out her feelings with puppet shows. After each session, they get ice cream at the parlor across the street, where Cade's security team has already vetted every employee and installed discreet cameras. New locks appear throughout the penthouse like clockwork. Cade tests each one personally, showing the twins how to work the mechanisms. "Like this," he demonstrates, guiding Jordan's small hands through the motions. "Remember the pattern!" The children turn it into a game, practicing until muscle memory takes hold. Kira sets up her home office in the sunroom, spreadsheets glowing on dual monitors. Each potential client undergoes rigorous background checks before her security detail gives approval. She finds satisfaction in honest numbers again, in helping small businesses grow cleanly. "How's the Chapman account?" Cade asks one evening, bringing her coffee. "Good. Their bakery is expanding to 3 locations." She accepts the mug with a smile. "All legitimate." The twins return to school gradually. First, virtual classes from home, then half days with private security. Finally, full days at Wellington Prep, where every teacher has been thoroughly investigated and cameras monitor every angle. That first morning, Jade grips Kira's hand tight. "What if—" "Look," Cade points to the unmarked car across the street, then to the maintenance worker trimming hedges. "My people are everywhere, always watching." Jordan studies the security pattern, memorizing faces and positions. By week 3, he waves to the guards by name. Time flows like honey, sweet and slow. Family dinners become sacred ritual. Homework spreads across the kitchen island, while Cade reviews reports nearby. Weekend movies pile blankets and bodies on the sectional sofa. The twins' laughter echoes through halls once cold with silence. One crisp Monday morning, they gather in the courthouse's marble lobby. Jade's party dress twirls as she spins. Jordan straightens his clip-on tie repeatedly. The adoption papers wait in a manila folder, official and imposing. Cade signs with steady hands, his usual sharp signature, softened somehow. "Does this mean we change our name?" Jordan asks, watching the pen move. Cade sets the pen down, turns to face him fully. You'll always be Brooks if you want to be. Papers don't make a family, love does. Jade beams. But we can hyphenate if we want, right? For special occasions? Whatever you choose, Cade says softly. It's your name, your identity. After the judge stamps the documents, they linger in the courthouse lobby. Sunlight streams through high windows, casting everyone in gold. Cade touches Kira's elbow, drawing her slightly aside. Instead of a ring box, he presents a thick envelope. Inside, a house deed, a brownstone with a fenced yard, security features already installed, close enough to school for walking on good days. His voice drops low, meant for her ears alone. You will never run again unless it's with me. Kira studies his face, seeing past the dangerous facade to the man who fixed toy cars at 2 a.m. and learned to make hot chocolate just the way her children like it. I keep my name, she says, my work, my voice. I'd never want you silent. His fingers brush her cheek. Your fire is what I fell for. That evening finds them at the neighborhood rink, string lights twinkling overhead like earthbound stars. Jordan and Jade circle on well-worn skates while Cade grips the wall, designer shoes replaced with rented blades. No, like this, Jade demonstrates a glide. Push from the side. Cade attempts to mimic her movement and wobbles dramatically. The twins dissolve into giggles. Less gangster, more penguin, Jordan suggests, earning fresh peals of laughter. From her spot on a nearby bench, Kira watches her family with a smile that could outshine the sun. Cade, deadly grace-turned, endearingly awkward, lets the children tug him along the ice. His guards maintain their perimeter with admirable restraint, though she catches a few hidden smiles. The city feels lighter somehow. Police reports show dropping crime rates in their district. Local businesses thrive under new protection. Even the weather cooperates, offering a perfect early evening. Not too cold, just crisp enough for rosy cheeks and visible breath. Mom, watch this. Jade attempts a spin that becomes more stumble than twirl. Kira claps anyway. Beautiful, baby! Jordan practices hockey stops, sending up sheets of ice. Dad, you try. The word falls naturally now, earned through 1,000 small moments of care. Cade's expression softens every time he hears it. I think I'll stick to walking for now, he says, but gamely lets them pull him into another wobbly lap. The string lights cast moving shadows as families come and go. Children chase each other across the ice. Parents chat on benches. It's wonderfully, perfectly ordinary. Kira watches Cade steady himself between the twins, their small hands locked in his larger ones. His usual predator's grace is nowhere to be seen, replaced by cautious movements and genuine laughter. Jordan counts their steps together. 1, 2, glide. 1, 2, glide. Jade adds her own rhythm. Pizza slice to slow down. Their voices blend with the ambient sounds of blades on ice, distant traffic, and general chatter. The guards remain vigilant but unobtrusive, professionals letting their boss have this moment of normalcy. Cade manages half a lap without stumbling, earning enthusiastic cheers from his teachers. His smile holds none of its usual sharp edges, just pure joy as the twins congratulate his progress.